All right, let's jump right in. If you've ever found yourself wondering how an automation script can possibly navigate a super complex website, well, the secret sauce is one core concept: locators. Today, we're going to break down exactly what they are and how you can start using them. I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. A modern web page is a crowded city, right? It's packed with buttons, links, forms, images, all sorts of stuff. So when you write a script, how in the world does it know precisely which login button to click or which search box to type into? It's not magic, I promise you. It's all about the clever use of locators. So let's tackle the big question head-on. What are web locators? Honestly, the best way to think about them is as a street address for every single thing on a web page. Just like a unique address can pinpoint one specific house in a huge city, a locator can pinpoint one specific button on a jam-packed website. So at its core, a locator is the command you give your automation script. It's the instruction that basically says, hey, Selenium, go find that exact thing on the page for me. You see, it's the critical bridge between the code you write and what you're actually seeing in the browser. And what kind of things are we targeting? Well, pretty much anything you can interact with. We're talking about the obvious stuff like buttons and input fields for sure, but also links, dropdowns, checkboxes, even images. Basically, if you can see it and click it on a page, there's a way to write a locator for it. Okay, so let's see how this stuff works in the real world. We're going to start with the most common type, attribute-based locators. These guys work by looking for specific properties or attributes that are written right into the web page's HTML code. You know, the fundamental language that structures the whole page. First up, we've got a real classic, finding an element by name. The strategy here is super straightforward. It just tells Selenium to scan the HTML and find an element that has a specific name attribute. Simple as that. And what's so cool is how direct this connection is. On the left, you see a snippet of HTML for a password field. See that attribute name equals password? Now look to the right at the Selenium command. The driver.findElement part is the action, and by.namePassword is our street address. It's a direct translation, telling the script exactly what to hunt for. But, and this is a really important but, while by name is easy, it's not always reliable. Why? Because the name attribute is not actually guaranteed to be unique. A developer could have used the same name for two different things, which would totally confuse your script. So it's a good starting point, but just keep that little warning in the back of your mind. All right, next up is another really popular one, by class name. This one searches for an element's CSS class, which is basically a label that developers use to apply styles like colors and fonts to different parts of the page. And you can see it's the same direct idea here. The HTML shows an input field with class equals login input. So our Selenium code just mirrors that, telling the script to find an element with that exact class name. It's simple and effective. Well, most of the time. And I say most of the time because class name has a major trap. You have to see this warning. If an element has multiple classes separated by spaces, like btn primary large, using by.classname will just fail. It completely breaks. It cannot handle those spaces. Honestly, this is one of the most common mistakes that trips up people new to automation. So what do you do when those simple attributes let you down? Well, we've got other tools in the toolbox. We can also find elements based on their fundamental type or even by the actual words you can read on the screen. This brings us to by tag name. This one focuses on the basic building blocks of a web page. See, every single element has a tag that defines what it is. For example, all hyperlinks use the A tag, most input fields use the input tag. This lets us find elements based on that very basic HTML structure. Now, the key difference here is that a tag name is almost never unique. So we often use it with the find elements command. See that little S on the end of elements? That's a huge deal. It tells Selenium to get a whole list of every matching element. This code, for example, will grab every single link on the entire page. And what's the result? Well, in this case, our script found 42. That's right, it located 42 different elements with the A tag, giving us a complete collection of every single link on that page to work with. Pretty powerful, right? So when is this actually useful? Oh, it's perfect for stuff like counting all the images on a product page or finding every single input field on a big registration form so you can fill them out one by one. It's your go-to tool when you need to work with groups of similar things. Okay, now let's talk specifically about links, because they get two special locators all to themselves. On the left, you've got by.link text. This one's the perfectionist. It demands an exact match. The link text has to be log in now, character for character, no exceptions. But on the right, you've got by.partial link text. This is the flexible friend. It'll find any link that simply contains the word reset, even if the full text is something like forgot password, click to reset. So when would you choose that more flexible partial match? It's your absolute best friend when the link text is super long, like click here to download the full annual report for last year. Or, and this is even more important, when the text is dynamic, maybe it has a username or a number that changes. Using a partial match makes your script way more robust and a lot less likely to break. Okay, I know that was a lot of information to throw at you, so let's take a breath and boil it all down to the key takeaways you really need to remember. Here's a simple little game plan to follow. First, always look for a unique name. For links, link text is your best bet for a perfect match. When you're thinking about using class name, just pause and double-check for spaces. And finally, pull out tag name when you need to grab a whole bunch of similar elements all at once. And this, right here, gets to the heart of why this matters so much. The reliability of your entire test suite, every single script you run, is built on this one foundation. If your locators are brittle or poorly chosen, your scripts will fail, and they will fail often. It really is that simple. So, you've now got the basic toolkit. You can find a lot of different elements on a web page, but this naturally leads us to one last, really crucial question. What happens when you come across an element that has no unique name, no usable class, and its text is changing all the time? How do you find that? Well, that's where the more powerful strategies like CSS selectors and XPath come into play. But that, my friends, is a story for another explainer.